Then I will tell you all. Goodbye now, naughty darling. I have such a bad headache today, and right by return to your longing. Martha. P.S. Do tell me, what kind of perfume does your wife use? I want to know.
He tore the flower gravely from the pinhole, smelt its almost no smell, and placed it in his heart pocket. Language of flowers, a rose without thorns. Has retired from the state and the Chicago City Colleges and works now with the Chicago Symphony. Count Leonard.
He had reached the open back door of O'Hara's. Stepping into the porch, he doffed his hat. Same notice on the door, summoned by the very Reverend John Comey, S.J., saved China's millions. Wonder how they explain it to the heathen Chinese. Prefer an ounce of opium. Rank heresy for them. Buddha, the god, lying on his side in the museum, taking it easy with hand under his cheek, jaw sticks burning, not like Ecce Homo, crown of thorns and cross. Clever idea. St. Patrick, the shamrock, chopstick. The cold smell of sacred stone called him. He trod the warm steps, pushed the swing door, and entered softly. Something going on, pity so empty. Nice discreet place to be next some gal. That woman at midnight mass, seventh heaven. Women knelt in the benches. The priest went along by them, murmuring. He stopped at each, took out the communion, shook a drop or two, are they in water? Offered, and put it neatly in her mouth. Her head and head sank. Then the next one, a small old woman. The priest bent down to put it into her mouth, murmuring all the time. Latin. The next one. Shut your eyes and open your mouth. What? Carpus, body, corpse. Good idea, the Latin. Stupefies them first. They don't seem to chew it. Only swallow it down. Rum idea, eating bits of a corpse. Why the cannibals caught him to it. He stood aside, watching, then approached a branch and seated himself in its corner, nursing his hat on newspaper. Look at them. Now I bet it makes them feel happy. It does. Yes. Bride of Angels, it's called. There's a big idea behind it. Kind of kingdom of God is within you feel. First communicants. Then feel all like one. Family party, same in the theater, all in the same swim. I'm sure of that. Not so lonely. Thing is, if you really believe it, blind faith, safe in the arms of kingdom come, knows the pain. He saw the priest stow the communion cup away and kneel an instant before it. Letters on his back, I-N-R-I? No, I-H-S. Molly told me one time, I asked her, I have sinned, or no, I have suffered, it is. And the other one, iron nails ran in. The priest is rinsing out the chalice, then he tossed off the dregs smartly. Wine makes it more aristocratic than, for example, if he drank Guinness or some temperance beverage. Quite right, perfectly right, that is. Mr. Bloom looked back toward the choir. Not going to be any music. Pity, some of that old sacred music is splendid. Mozart's 12th Mass, the Gloria in that. Those old popes are keen on music, on art and statues, and pictures of all kinds. They had a gay old time while it lasted. Healthy too. chanting regular hours than brew liquors, still having eunuchs in their choir. That was coming in a bit thick. Surely, suppose they wouldn't feel anything after that. Kind of placid, no worry, eunuch. He saw the priest bend down and kiss the altar, and then face about and bless the people. All crossed themselves and stood up. Mr. Bloom glanced about him and stood up, looking over the risen hats. The priest came down from the altar, and he and the masked boy answered each other in Latin. Then the priest knelt down and began to read off a card. O God, our refuge and strength, defend us in the hour of conflict. Be our safeguard against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God restrain him, we humbly pray. The priest and the masked boy stood up and walked off. O heaven, the women remained behind Thanksgiving. Better be showing along. He stood up. Hello. Were those two buttons of my waistcoat open all the time? Women enjoy it. Good job it wasn't Father Sal. He passed, discreetly buttoning, down the aisle, and out through the main door into the night.
Well, he's going to have his next encounter, but an interesting insight. Bloom is always thinking, oh, funny ritual of eating human body. That's why the cannibals take to it. Kind of a missionary insight. And now he's going to encounter a young gentleman, a friend of his, an acquaintance from the city of Dublin. Bloom has a newspaper with him that he had been using earlier when he was in the outhouse for certain reasons. And Bantam Lyons is about to approach and ask to take a look at his newspaper and to hear how that unfolds. Thank you for this. Matt Edwards.
Yeah.
So let's get Matt Edwards up here real quick. There is a horse race. Later in the day, the Golden Cup. And many horses running, including one called Scepter. But at the very great, well, Matt will tell you about it.
To differentiate the two characters in my amateurish interpretation here, one accent will be Irish and the other will be Scottish. And as Mike Nichols once said, in An Evening with Nichols and May, pay close attention to the accents because they will soon be indistinguishable from one another. At his armpit, Bantam Lyon's voice and hand said, "Hello, Bloom. What's the best news? Is that today's paper? Show us a minute." Shaved off his mustache again. By Jove, to look younger. He does look balmy. Wants a wash, too. Dandruff on his shoulder scalp, one's oiling. What did I say about that French horse that's running today, Bantam? Lyon said. Where the bugger is it? He rustled the pleated pages, jerking his chin on his high collar. You can have it, Mr. Bloom said. Ascot, Gold Cup, wait, Bantam Lyons muttered. Half a roll, maximum the second. I was just going to throw it away, Mr. Bloom said. Bantam Lyons raised his eyes suddenly and leered weakly. What's that? His sharp voice said. I say, you can have it, Mr. Bloom answered. I was going to throw it away that moment. Bantam Lyons doubted an instant, leered, and thrust the outspread sheets back on Mr. Bloom's arms. Oh, risk it, he said. Here, thanks. He sped off toward Conway's corner. Mr. Bloom folded the sheets again to a neat square, smiling silly lips off that chap, betting, regular hotbed of it lately. Messenger boy stealing to put on 6 pence, raffle for large tender turkey. Your Christmas dinner for 3 pence. Jack Fleming embezzling to gamble, then smuggled off to America, keeps a hotel now. They never come back, flesh pots of Egypt, he walks cheerfully. Heavenly weather, really. Cricket weather. Sit around under sunshades. Heat wave. That won't last. Always passing. Stream of life. Which in the stream of life we trace as down in the more.
Rated at 200 to 1. And we'll find out what happens with him later. But now we finally get to go to the funeral. Everyone enjoys those kinds of events. And to tell us about him, please welcome Gary Bricketto. Gary Bricketto made his professional debut in the play Ithaca by Sir Jeff Augustin in 1910 at Adrian Theatre. First, we'll note that he did theatrical appearances. Since then, he has performed on stage, television, radio, theater, films, and throughout Chicago and internationally, including a 2002 gig in the Dublin Theatre Festival, where he had the first-hand opportunity to see many of the sights described by James Joyce himself. What did you say about accents? Among them, the renowned Sweeney Pharmacy, where he purchased a tube of Boots hemorrhoid ointment. Bloomsday 2015 marks Gary's 4th appearance in the annual event, and he is pleased to have maintained his association with Mr. Helgeson through all these many years. Gary, you're supposed to be coming forward during the meeting. So good, get ready. I'm moving this along now. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Martin Cunningham first poked his silk-hat head into the creaking carriage and, entering deftly, seated himself. Mr. Power stepped in after him, curving his height with care. "Come on, Simon. After you," Mr. Bloom said. Mr. Dedalus covered himself quickly and got in, saying, "Yes, yes." "Are we all here now?" Martin Cunningham asked. "Come on, Bloom." Mr. Bloom entered and sat in the vacant place. He pulled the door to after him and slammed it twice till it shut tight, all waiting. Nothing was said. Then wheels were heard from in front, turning, then nearer, then horses' hoofs, a jolt. The carriage began to move, creaking and swaying. Other hoofs and creaking wheels started behind. "What way is he taking us?" Mr. Power asked. "Irish Town," Martin Cunningham said. "Ringsend, Brunswick Street." Mr. Douglas nodded, looking up. "That's a fine old custom," he said. "I'm glad to see that it is not died out." All watched a while through their windows, caps and hats lifted by those they passed. Respect. The carriage swerved from the tram track to the smooth road past Watery Lane. Mr. Bloom, at gaze, saw a lithe young man, clad in mourning, a wide hat. "There's a friend of yours going by, Douglas," he said. "Who is that?" "Your son and heir." "Where is he?" Mr. Douglas said, stretching over across. "Was that Mulligan cad with him?" "No," Mr. Bloom said, "he was alone." "Down with a low-down crowd," Mr. Douglas snarled. "That Mulligan is a contaminated, bloody ruffian by all accounts. His name stinks all over Dublin. But with the help of God and his blessed mother, I'll make it my business to write a letter one of these days to his aunt, or whatever she is. They will open her eyes as wide as a gate." He cried above the clatter of the wheels, "I won't have her bastard of a nephew ruin my son." He ceased. Mr. Bloom glanced from his angry mustache. If little Rudy had lived, see him grow up, hear his voice in the house, walking beside Molly underneath the tree. My son, me in his eyes, what a strange feeling it would be. Would have helped him on in life, I could, make him independent. "Are we late?" Mr. Power asked. 10 minutes, Martin Cunningham said, looking at his watch. The carriage heeled over and back, their 4 trunks swaying. Martin Cunningham began to brush away crumb crusts from under his thighs. What is this, he asked, in the name of God? Crumbs? Someone seems to have been making a picnic party here lately, Mr. Power said. All raised their thighs and eyed with disfavor the mildewed, buttonless leather of the seats. Did Tom Kernan turn up? Martin Cunningham asked, twirling the peak of his beard gently. Yes, Mr. Bloom answered. He's behind with Ned Lambert and Hines. I met Mackay this morning and he said he tried to come. The carriage halted short. What's wrong? We're stopped. Where are we? The Grand Canal, Mr. Bloom said, his head out the window. A raindrop spat on his hat. He drew back and he saw an instant of shower, sprayed dots all over the grey flags. The weather's changing, he said quietly. Pity you didn't keep up fine, Martin Cunningham said. Waiting for the country, Mr. Powell said. There, the sun's coming out again. Mr. Douglas, peering through his glasses toward the veiled sun, hurled a mute curse at the sky. Ah, it's as uncertain as a child's bottom, he said. We're off again. The carriage turned again its stiff wheels and their trunks swayed gently. Martin Cunningham twirled more quickly the peak of his beard. They went past the bleak pulpit of St. Mark's, under the railway bridge, past the Queen's Theatre in silence. How do you do, Martin Cunningham said, raising his palm to his brow in salute. He doesn't see us, Mr. Power said. Yes, he does. How do you do? Who? Mr. Douglas asked. Blazes boiling, Mr. Power said. There he goes, wearing his cough. Mr. Douglas bent across to salute. From the door of the Red Bank, the white disc of a straw hat flashed reply. Spruce figure passed. Mr. Bloom reviewed the nails of his left hand, then those of his right hand. Worst man in Dublin. He clasped his hands between his knees and, satisfied, sent his vacant glance over their faces. The Lord forgive me, Mr. Power said. Poor Pappy. I did a thought a week ago when I saw him last, and he was in his usual health. Did I be driving after him like this? He's gone from us. The decent a little man as ever wore a hat, Mr. Douglas said. He went very suddenly. Breakdown, Martin Cunningham said. Heart tapped his chest, sad. Blazing face, red hot. Too much John Barleycorn. Cure for a red nose. A lot of money he spent colouring it too. Mr. Power gazed at the passing houses with rueful apprehension. He had a sudden death, poor fellow. The best death, Mr. Bloom said. Their wide open eyes looked at him. No suffering, he said. A moment, and all is over. Like dying in sleep. No one spoke. But the worst of all, Mr. Power said, is the man who takes his own life. Martin Cunningham drew out his watch briskly, coughed and put it back. The greatest disgrace to have in the family, Mr. Power added. They say a man who does it is a coward, Mr. Douglas said. It is not for us to judge, Martin Cunningham said. Mr. Bloom, about to speak, closed his lips again. In silence, they drove along, then stopped. Martin Cunningham put out his arm and, wrenching back the handle, shoved the door open with his knee. He stepped out. Mr. Power and Mr. Douglas followed. Mr. Bloom stepped out of the carriage and followed his companions. Mourners came out through the gates and all walked after him. Martin Cunningham whispered, I was in mortal agony with you, talking of suicide before Bloom. What? Mr. Power whispered. How so? His father poisoned himself, Martin Cunningham whispered. Oh, God, Mr. Power whispered. First I heard of it. Poisoned himself.
Keep things moving right along. Bloom finishes the funeral, encounters a few more people, denizens of Dublin, and then makes his way to the newspaper office, where he is attempting to place an ad for keys. At the same time, well, you'll hear what happens. time. And to bring us that section of our narrative, at 16, Hugh Schwartzford graduated from Senate High School here in Chicago and went off to Harvard College, where he met his wife, much sweeter, at 16, and where he performed most of the great acting roles like that radio person, in which he chose the most succulent parts for himself. And that's what we get him tonight as well. There he has picked up Harvard Boylston Prize for his oral interpretation of James Joyce's Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, and an AD degree, cum laude. Yale Law School provides him with a master's degree, which he later exchanged for a doctorate, as was the custom at the time. In recent years, he has done a little acting outside court, except for the role of the guard in Marlowe's local production of Vanesco's The Exit the King. Although he has been known to recite his own poetry, some of his essays are available free on the web through the Chicago Library Club. He is a lawyer in private practice and welcomes new clients if they are nice. Please welcome Hugh Schwartzford.
In the heart of the Hibernian metropolis, before Nelson's pillar, tram slowed, shunted, changed trolley, started for Blackcroft, Kingstown and Dorky, Palmerston Park and Upper Rathmines, Sandymount Green, Rings End and Sandymount Tower, Harold's Cross, the Horse Dublin United Tramway Company's timekeeper rolled them off. Rathcar and Sandymount Green! Right and left. Parallel clanging, ringing, a double-decker and a single-deck moved from their railheads, swerved to the down line, glided parallel, Palmerston Park! Gentlemen of the press. There it is, Red Murray said. Alexander Keys. Just cut it out, will you, Mr. Bloom said? Then I'll take it round to the telegraph office. Red Murray's long shears sliced out the advertisement from the newspaper in 4 clean strokes, scissors and paste. I'll go through the printing works, Mr. Bloom said, taking the cut square. Of course, if he wants a pair, Red Murray said earnestly, a pen behind his ear, we can do him one. Right, Mr. Bloom said with a nod. See the canvasser at work. Mr. Bloom laid his cutting on Mr. Nanetti's desk. Excuse me, Counselor, he said. This ad, you see, Keys, you remember? Mr. Nanetti considered the cutting a while and nodded. He wants it in for July, Mr. Bloom said. The foreman moved his pencil towards it. But wait, Mr. Bloom said, he wants it changed. Keys, you see, he wants 2 keys at the top, like that. Mr. Bloom said, crossing his forefingers at the top. Mr. Bloom, glancing upwards from the cross he had made, saw the foreman's sallow face. House of Keys. Like that, see? 2 crossed keys here, a circle, then here the name, Alexander Keys, tea, wine, and spirit merchant, so on. You know yourself, Counselor, just what he wants. Then round the top, the House of Keys. You see? So, do you think that's a good idea? The foreman moved his scratching hand to his lower ribs and scratched there quietly. The idea, Mr. Bloom said, is the House of Keys. You know, innuendo of home rule catches the eye, you see. Can you do that? We cannot do that, the foreman said. Have you the design? I can get it, Mr. Bloom said. It was in a Kilkenny paper. The foreman thought for an instant. We cannot do that, he said. Let him give us a 3 months renewal. Typesetter brought him a limp galley page. He began to check it silently. Mr. Bloom stood by, hearing the loud throbs of cranks, watching the silent typesetters at their cases. Exit Bloom! Mr. Bloom took up his cutting. Time to get out. Then I'll get the design, he said, and you'll give it a good place, I know. He looked indecisively for a moment at their faces. The editor, leaning against the mantel shelf, had propped his head on his hand, suddenly stretched forth an arm amply. "Begone," he said, "the world is before you." "Back in no time," Mr. Bloom said, hurrying out. "He'll get that advertisement." "You can do it." Mr. O'Maddenberg, tall and copious gray of Donegal tweed, came in from the hallway. Stephen Dedalus behind him, uncovered as he entered. "Good day, Stephen," the professor said, coming to peer over their shoulders. "Foot and mouth?" "A good day, sir," Stephen answered, blushing. "The letter is not mine. Mr. Garrett Deasy asked me to—" "Oh, I know him," Klaus Crawford said. "And knew his wife, too? The bloodiest old Tarzan God ever made. By Jesus, she had the foot and mouth disease, and no mistake." The editor laid a hand on Stephen's shoulder. "I want you to write something for me," he said. "Something with a bite in it. You can do it. I see it in your face, in the lexicon of youth. Foot and mouth disease," the editor cried in scornful invective. "Balls, bulldozing the public. Give them something with a bite in it. Put us all into it. Damn its soul. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, and Jakes McCarthy." Stephen raised his eye. "He wants you for the press gang, J.J. O'Malley said. "Gentlemen," Stephen said, "as the next motion on the agenda, may I suggest that the House do now adjourn?" "That it be, and hereby is resolved, all who are in favor say aye," and then Ann announced. "The contrary, no. I declare it carried, to which particular boozing shed my casting vote is Mooney's." "Leon McDuff, chip off the old block," the editor cried, slapping Stephen on the shoulder. "Let us go. Where are those blasted keys? Foot and mouth, that'll be all right. It'll go in. Come along, Stephen, come along." "Hello, there, Central!" At various points along the 8 lines, tramcars with motionless trolleys stood in their tracks, bound for or from Kingstown and Dorky, Sandymount Green, Rings End, and Sandymount Tower, Donnybrook, Coniston Park, and Upper Rathmines, all still become in short circuit.
My favorite section of the book, that city that was just described to us becalmed in short circuit, is still alive